standing in Archer Huntington's study, or his office and workspace. Many people want to know what Atalaya looked like when the Huntingtons were here. If you've ever been to, for example, Biltmore House in North Carolina, you might think that this was a very fancy mansion like the Biltmore House. It actually was not. Keeping in tune with the Mediterranean style, the house was pretty much as you see it now. Obviously the paint wasn't peeling, the paint was all fresh, the windows were all in place. But the house did have the bare brick floors that you see, the painted walls, and it was furnished with simple furniture. Wrought iron mostly, a few desks. I'm sure Archer had a big desk in his office. And the wrought iron plant stands, the chairs, and the wall sconces were all designed by Anna. Again, she was a sculptor. They did have indoor electricity and plumbing. Archer considered himself a scholar. He wrote poems in Spanish and English. He did a massive translation of an epic Spanish poem called El Cid, and that took him about 10 years. And it's still used as college textbooks today if you're studying Spanish, so he was quite the scholar. He founded 2 institutions of his own, the Mariners Museum in Newport News, Virginia, and also the Hispanic Society, which is in New York City, and that was from his love of Hispanic culture. But he sat on the boards of many, many other institutions. The house is very heavy, of course, because it's made of brick, and the roof is poured concrete. So all of the beams that you see up above are iron encased in concrete, and those support the heavy roof.
Iron encased in concrete, was that a usual building method in this period?
This house was built much more recently than many people think. It was built in the 1930s, between 1931 and 33. And for a brick house, that was not unusual. Archer was really, really good. He designed this whole house himself, and there are no known existing architectural plans for the house. It was all notes that Archer made himself. And the construction was overseen by a local contractor, William Thompson, of course, who had never seen anything like this, so it was quite a challenge. But the house was exceptionally well made.
This isn't an original door, is it?
This one is actually original, and it was taken out and repaired, and we made several replica doors off of it. These are original doorknobs to the house. Again, we've made some modifications to the door. We have deadbolts on here, and this allows us to close off the interior of the house at night for safety, and it also gives the house more of a look of how it used to look when the Huntingtons lived here. The doors are very heavy, so we have this locked open during the day so it doesn't slam shut in the wind. You can see that this was a Dutch door, and most of the exterior doors they had in the house were Dutch doors. One reason for that was all of the dogs that they had, so they could let the dogs run around the house and not worry about them getting out. Okay, we're now in the servants' living quarters, and this was one of the nicer rooms in the house. You'll notice it has windows on both sides, and this actually matches the master bedroom on the opposite corner of the house. The Huntingtons took very good care of the people who worked for them. It was considered a good job. Again, they were working for them during some of the years of the Depression. Most of the servants here were African Americans who lived on Sandy Island, so they were local community. The Huntingtons did a lot for people in the areas where they built things. For example, here where Archer built Atalaya, he built 2 schools, 2 churches, and a free medical clinic. In other places, for example, where he started the Hispanic Society in New York, he built a Roman Catholic cathedral nearby because most of the people who lived in that neighborhood were Hispanic. The servants in this room had a large table that they could sit at to read or write a letter. Archer, with his love of books, furnished this room also with bookshelves of books for the staff to read as well, and they had comfortable furniture. One of the funny quirks about this room, behind the door, you can still see some black remnant lines. And this was an in-house telephone system that Archer had set up. And there were different lines for different rooms, so that when the room rang, the servants were able to tell which room it was because each one had a different ring. So that was an in-house telephone system. And there are several servants' bedrooms that we'll see down the hall. They probably had a staff here, a seasonal staff of about 20 to 25. The servants had to do all the cooking and cleaning for the house, all of the laundry, help take care of the dogs, and they also kept fires going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As I said, they were only seasonal staff. The Huntingtons came here around November or December of each year and would stay into the spring, or maybe just for the winter. And when they were gone, the house was locked up for the season. No one lived here. In addition to the servants that they hired locally, the Huntingtons also had about 5 to 7 permanent staff who traveled with them, such as their chauffeur, the women who worked with the dogs, and Archer's secretary.